Hey, what's up, y'all? So I want to explain something. So I remember I was listening to a sermon. His name is Pastor Vadi. Uh, Vadi. I cannot pronounce his last name for the life of me. But very a reformed preacher who happens to be Black American. But I remember I was listening to his sermon about why he left a predominantly Black church and started attending predominantly white churches. And at first, I didn't understand that. I really didn't. But then, as time went on, as my life started going on, I started understanding why he started. I'm starting to see why he felt. I'm starting to see why he feels that way. Or why he felt that way. Because this ain't me. This I'm just gonna call it for what it is. You know, I know I'm gonna get a lot of heat for this, but I'm sorry, it's got to be said. But one thing I notice about black people is that we're very competitive. Especially black men. We're very competitive. We're always competitive when it comes to everything. You know what I'm saying? And I noticed that even in the Christian world, even in the church world, we're still like that. Always competitive about who knows more, who has more knowledge than the other. I always want to sit up here and compete with one another. Have the crab mentality, and it's so sad, what I'm saying? It really is, because you would think because we're born again Christians, we would, the Bible tells us, um, you know, be transformed by the renewing of your mind and be not conformed to the patterns of this world, And so I noticed that a lot of the black churches, because I mean, I'm just gonna call it for what it is. I'm sorry, again, I know I'm gonna get a lot of heat for this. A lot of people are gonna not like what I'm about to say, but I noticed that a lot of black people carry a toxic victimist, a lot of toxic venomous mentality. You know what I'm saying? And so even in the church, they bring that mentality in the church. You know what I'm saying? And which is something I don't want to have around me. You know what I'm saying? And so, with that being said, is that I'm starting to understand why Pastor Bondi. I'm starting to see why he left the quote unquote black American church and started attending a predominantly white church. Now I'm not putting white people on a pedestal like they're any better, okay? You know what I'm saying? Because none of us are flawless, okay? We all have our issues. But however, I've noticed that, and I noticed that a lot of black churches tend to bring a lot of their racial ideology within their Christian circles. You know what I'm saying? And that's something I won't entertain that. You know what I'm saying? If I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, I refuse to entertain that nonsense. You know what I'm saying? I refuse to bring that nonsense around me. So I noticed that, like I said, I noticed that a lot with a lot of these black American churches with, you know um, churches that are predominantly black. And again, some people may disagree with me, and that's okay. But I'm just telling it how it is. I've always had better experiences having fellowship with white churches than I have with black churches. Now don't get it wrong. There's some things about the black church I can say I appreciate. With the Negro spirituals, I love my Negro spirituals and everything. But a lot of the mentality can be very toxic, even in the church world. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I've always had better experiences fellowshipping um, with white American Christians than I have with fellow black American Christians. I'm not saying it's about every single black American church, but the majority of them can be pretty toxic. You know what I'm saying? So some of y'all might take this offensive, but I'm sorry. I'm just speaking my mind.